Hi, I'm Lance Slyman. This is my policy project on reforming Washington State's leisure pot laws. Why do we need to change Initiative 502, or what we just brought into law? First off, the Washington State Liquor Control Board is really slowing us down in Washington State. We were supposed to have licenses out on January 1st, and we still have seen no action. It's really slowing us down, especially compared to Colorado, who already let out and began to give out licenses on January 1st, and their first day of open stores was on January 1st. But back to Washington. We need ease of access. If we don't have easy access for both the smoker and for the people making, selling, and processing the marijuana, no one is going to switch over to this new system. It needs to be easy and quick for people to get through. If it's harder than the black market, people are just going to shift back. Secondly, we don't have actual legalization. We brought in some kind of gray area where you are now allowed to go and buy from these specific stores, but if you don't have the receipt, you do not have ownership over what you have just purchased. So if you don't have the receipt, if it's you're holding it for a friend, if it's a friend's and they pass it to you, all of that is still illegal and no more legal than it was before. What are the tax implications that all of this is going to bring to us? So originally we were going to go ahead and give all that tax money towards low-income families and helping with medical expenses that people can't afford. But now because of the new Obamacare system, we don't really need that. So the new plan for the money is to give it to police and law enforcement, with a little bit of money on the side for the Washington State Liquor Control Board to regulate this new system. I think this is a little overkill and headed in the wrong direction. We don't need to create more police. We need to create better education. We need to be teaching our kids about how to make proper decisions so that whenever they grow older, they can just be doing the right thing. Furthermore, we still don't have home grow. It's a little hypocritical of them to say, we support this and that we will now allow marijuana to be sold and used, but you're still not allowed to grow it yourself. This seems like a two-sided coin, and it's just a bad system to be working with. The current design is also trying to remove medical marijuana from Washington State. This is going to affect many people in many ways. Partially, once they get rid of medical patients will be unable to grow it for themselves and provide for themselves. Seeing that this is expensive to buy in stores, this is a little unreasonable. On top of that, the weed that will be sold in these stores will have THC and CBD caps. THC is the active ingredient in marijuana that produces stony effects, and CBDs produce more of a medical effect. With caps on both of these, it will be unconstitutional to expect medical patients to go and get their medicine from these stores due to the fact that they are not receiving adequate or the best care possible for their illnesses. And lastly, let's talk about the DUID laws. I know everybody's interested about that. The new law says that you're only allowed to have 5 nanograms or less in your bloodstream when you're driving. As this graph shows, even if you're just a moderate user and you haven't smoked for 20 days at all, you can still have up to 20 nanograms in your system, 4 times the amount of the legal limit. This is obviously overkill, and not enough science has been done to figure out how to test or the most accurate way to test to see if someone is still stoned. Obviously, after 28 days of no use, there will be 0 effects on driving because of this, or no signs of somebody being stoned. Alright, part 2. Let's talk about other models we can look at. Let's look at Colorado. They just passed Amendment 64, and that legalized marijuana for them. And whenever I say legalized, it actually legalized. If you're over 21, you're allowed to buy it at specific locations, or even grow it yourself at your home. There's a lot less control on that part, but even if you're doing home grow, you're not allowed to go and sell that. To sell it or to produce it on a large scale, you have to still have these licenses. But the licenses are not being dispensed through the Alcohol Control Board. This has sped up their process a lot. On January 1st, the first stores opened with 35 recreational retailers. 18 of them were surveyed, and off their first 27 days of tax data, over $1.24 million were collected. This is huge. It's estimated they'll be able to bring in over $100 million each year in tax revenue. let's talk about easier access. So because of what Colorado has done and cutting out the Liquor and Control Board, they have sped up this process so much, making it easier for people to go and purchase the weed, but also for people to be able to produce it and sell it. This is what's really creating that large amount of tax money. Their DUID laws still aren't great, but they're a little better than Washington State's. They have the same limit, 5 nanograms per milliliter, but theirs is voluntary versus Washington State has an involuntary blood test. The voluntary blood test still has a couple, it's not the best, but they can take away, if you don't say okay to it, they can take away your license for a year and tack you with a fatty fine. But let's talk about some positives here. Their game plan for the tax money is so much better than ours right now. They want to take the first $40 million and put that into building more schools. Then the money, a little bit of it will go to regulatory services, the people who they're hiring to go and check out these locations. But most of it will go towards education. Not only education in the sense of hiring teachers and building better schools and giving better technology for the kids to learn, but also for drug education, giving a better light on what's happening in our world with drugs and how to make good decisions about them later on in life. So, how do we actualize this? Well, we would need to make new amendments to the Washington State law. I don't think we need to throw out the whole entire 502 initiative, but obvious changes need to be made. This would not be a federal reform. That's really going to be difficult, I think, for the entirety of the United States to come to this. I think it will happen eventually, but not yet. It needs to be headed on to state-by-state level until over the half of the United States has come to legalization, and then federally they'll almost be forced to agree with the people. The government action that we would take would be talking to state legislators, getting something put on the docket so that we could actually vote it and vote it into law and vote for amendments to be made to the current law. Thank you. That's my presentation. Thanks for watching. Any questions and comments are welcome. Have a great day.